I want to kind of get an idea of your sales process. Um, I want you to treat me as if I am 5 years old, and kind of explain to me. Um, Obviously, I understand how you source and leads. I get all that. I've seen you in action. That's amazing. I want to talk about how you're qualifying sellers and I guess the properties, and then I don't know. I want to understand what your sales process looks like.
Okay, perfect. So like one of the first things I do, and I mean it's super different, right? When you're talking about different marketing channel, it's like, is it inbound? Are we talking about inbound? Are we talking about cold? Are we talking about direct to agent? Like what are we talking about right now, Paul?
Direct to agent.
Direct to agent. So I don't really do too much direct to agent. Direct to agent is super simple in my opinion. One of the things you want to just do is just honestly just build rapport with them, right? And I know that's a vague answer, but direct to agent is like, hey, I am an investor. I'm looking to buy properties that needs some TLC, but we're also open to creative terms depending on, the type of properties you're dealing with. For example, like low equity or just high equity seller finance, they just want way too much for this worth, right? And it's like, do you have anything with that? Do you have any context of a property you're looking at or the agent that you're working with, or any objections that you want to potentially bring up so we can clarify the conversation a little bit more?
Yeah, so the number one objection that I usually get is like the wholesaler stigma, right? They'll be
Okay.
like, for whatever reason, it sounds like you're trying to assign this or you're trying to wholesale. How would you handle that type of objection?
Like 100%, we definitely want, like, one of our things is that we do is that we work with a network of buyers and we will 100% potentially wholesale this. But at the same time, I am also a buyer myself. And the only time that I wouldn't take an opportunity myself if it's the numbers doesn't make sense. But at the end of the day, let me ask you, why are you concerned about wholesaling? Why, like, what's your concern? Like, why don't you like wholesalers? Like, I'll find out what the actual objection is. Because in the end of the day, it's like the same thing with the seller. It's like, in the end of the day, if I can get you the price that you want and the commission paid, what does it matter to you? Right? In the end of the
Gotcha.
day, you're still getting your commission paid. Why don't you like wholesalers? I'm genuinely a little bit confused. Can you explain that to me a little bit more? Why aren't you like why don't you work with wholesalers?
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
Because in the end of the day, psychologically, they might feel like, okay, you're not the actual buyer, and then it's not serious. But I am the buyer. But at the same time, we do wholesale. What's your objection? What's the actual reason? Because you get your commission paid, your seller gets the same amount of money. Like, what's the actual objection here? Like, the whole goal is to figure out why, right? Like, why do they say that?
Okay.
Mhm.
Gotcha. So we're always looking to get to the root of the issue. What's the actual objection, and kind of figure out where we can go from there. I totally get that. And I got some questions I wrote here, so I'm going to be referring
Yeah,
to
do
them
your
as we
thing,
go.
man.
All right, so direct to agent sounds like it's pretty simple from your perspective. I love that. I want to get your take on your sales process when it comes to inbound leads.
Yeah, inbound's a whole different beast, man. The DTA is just a relationship game. It's just a numbers game. The more people you talk to, it just like your goal with DTA is to build out a reputation for you to become that person they want to work with, right? So it's constant follow-ups. I will have them on like a rotation of a call list on like a 2 to 3 months, I mean 2 to 3 week basis, and just be like, hey, how's it going? How's it going, Paul? How's the kid? X, Y, and Z, and like really build on a relationship. So next time they get an opportunity, they want to come to you with it, right? That's the main thing with DTA. Great business model, but it doesn't work until you build it out, right? It's like long term, there's no instant gratification with DTA. Direct to seller is more on the side of, hey, you raise your hand, you need to sell your home. let me talk to you. Why do you need to sell your home? It's like, right. So I will be like, hey, Paul, how's everything going? I saw that you submitted a form about selling your home on 123 Main Street. Is that correct? Yes. Okay, perfect. Tell me a little bit more. What's going on? What prompted you to want to sell the property? Right? I see that you listed in my form that it's because you're looking for a quick sale, uh, and you want to get rid of the thing within the next 3 months. Can you just elaborate on that for me? Blah, 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 blah. Take some notes down. Okay, perfect, Paul. So I'm just curious, just to make sure that I'm protecting your time and mine. If we come to a price agreement today, is this something that you're even willing to move forward with? So I handle the objection of, hey, let me think about it later.
Before it even comes up.
Before it even comes up, I always started with that.
Okay.
It's like, well, I have to think about it. Well, what do you mean you have to think about it? Because in the end of the day, what we do in our company is that we allocate budgets for something like a purchase. It's sometimes from, 100 grand all the way up to $500,000. We don't just have $500,000 ready to buy anything. We want to make sure that, hey, if we give you the offer today, it's something that we can do currently, because if you come back tomorrow, we might have purchased a different property and we wouldn't be able to, you know, we wouldn't be able to buy yours, and that wouldn't be very fair to you, right? And it would be ethical of me, right? I always love to use that line as it wouldn't be ethical of me
That's
to do
smooth.
this, right? So that's typically the main objection, right? It's like, let me think about it, because the goal with DT, direct to seller on anything, is for them to want to make a decision today. All right, perfect. You're willing to sign. Okay, just it's still okay if I tell you a little about our process and how we do things internally here. Great. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is that we're gonna do a virtual walkthrough through conversation of your property, the condition, X, Y, and Z, all the things that you probably went through 100 times with other buyers before in the past. And we're gonna ask you some condition problems just to make sure we can get the right price. And once you tell me all the information, we're gonna put you on a brief pause, and I'm gonna go back to the underwriting team and really try to figure out what's the best price that we can go for you. If you have a price in mind, my goal is to always fight for you and to get as close to that price as possible if it's a reasonable amount. That being said, do you have a price in mind? So we're not talking about like urgency, and we're talking about the price, right? Okay, you want this much for your property. Perfect. I don't even dive deep into that question yet until later on. Like, I just want them to tell me a number, right? Because now the next step, I don't want to be like, oh yeah, we can't do that number. Everything is negotiable in life. So even if they're super high from your number that you have calculated right there and then, you probably already have the ARV at this point. You know what I'm saying? Where your MAO is going to be. So you basically just tell them, okay, cool, that's fine. Let me talk about the condition of the property. What's going on? Blah, blah, blah. Tell me what's going on with your property. I'll just get them to blabber as much as possible, right? And they will gonna tell you all these things. And then you gotta really figure out like, okay, what's the urgency, right? What's the reason why they're trying to sell their home? And what have they tried and what have they done? It's like, oh, have you tried this yet? Oh, you don't like this. Have you done this yet? And then you just try to pry out information from them, right? You want them to sell themselves in the conversation as you're the best choice right now.
You just started your real estate business, and now you're like, I'm trying to call these sellers, trying to figure out what I'm supposed to do here. I don't know how to comp this thing. I don't know how to even call the seller and find their number. Use Privy. Privy will get you all that information. You can find buyers, you can find sellers, you can get on market deals, off market deals. I mean, I don't know how you're not using it. Link's right here. Go use it. We use it every day.
I want to kind of switch gears a little bit, and I want to talk about whenever you are determining a property's ARV, and the potential profit margin. I know people do it differently, and there's kind of like a different algorithm, so to speak, for everybody. What does it look like for you?
So one of the things that I do is like depending on what they tell me at the condition of the property, I'll start subtracting in my head, like either like depending on like 70, 60, 50%, depending on like the condition, I kind of just go with that. One of the best things that we typically do is we like to call nearby realtors before we lock things up even and just see what the property can go for. So like when I put the person on pause, I will literally call a realtor in the area.
And what does that conversation look like? Are you just like, hey, my name's Will. I've got this property that I really don't know a whole lot about. It's this address. If I fix it up, make it look sexy, what do you think it could sell for? Is that
Yeah, I just be like, hey, dude, hey, Paul, I saw that you're the top listed agent in this area. There's actually another guy that I'm gonna call after you, but I just thought to go with the best guy in the area first. Do you have a few minutes to chat? Yeah, so I'm actually an investor. We sign a lot of contracts that we don't buy ourselves. Are you familiar with that term? Yes? Okay, perfect. I actually have one that I'm about to lock up right now, but I'm based out in Florida and I don't know how I got this lead. But the seller is looking to sell, very motivated, and they're completely fine with me listing the property on their behalf with a power of attorney. I'm just curious, what do you think this property is worth in your experience, in your professional experience?
got it? Got it. Um, so that's kind of like your best way to determine ARV is to go to the people that already have accurate data in that local market.
Mhm.
I think because I see a lot of people that they'll jump on PropStream or Privy or any one of these comping websites and they'll go through all the steps. So you're not jumping in on any of those. You're just kind of
No, I do. I
going to
still
the
do my
source.
baseline ARV. Like you can see from most of the data, like, okay, there's a couple properties in this area that's being sold at X, Y, and Z. Like this is probably what's going to be worth. But if I want to double check, I will tell them. And for
Gotcha.
especially like a lot of the guys that I work with, and myself included, we do like nationwide stuff. So it just costs more, it's more cost effective for like marketing. And we put most of our contracts on like innovation anyways, like just with the power of
Mm.
attorney marketing agreement. Yeah.
So what does that look like in terms of that conversation you're having with them about getting the necessary paperwork for innovation? Because that's
Yeah, I tell them
I
straight up, be like, yeah, like Miss like Paul, so we have a couple programs. So number one is a cash program where obviously is the one that you sign up for where we are going to buy the home to you. But that's typically the lowest price because as investors, we want to make the most money possible, right? And then just make sense for us. The second one is actually a home equity protection program where we actually help you find a buyer and we help you do the negotiation, the photograph, and everything that you need to basically sell your home for the highest price possible. And typically we can get you an extra, 15 to 20 grand from this process and sometimes even more. Would that be something that you're comfortable with? Right.
Hmm.
And then it's like you still get the same price, you actually make more money and we still pay the closing costs. Yeah.
Okay, got it. And so the paperwork, I know some people get hung up on, or at least in my experience, they've got hung up on. It's like, hey, is this a power of attorney? Is this like, you know, whenever people have objections to the paperwork, what is typically your response to that?
I act stupid. I'm like, yeah, this is a power attorney. I told like we have to list this on your behalf and just in the end of the day, we want to make sure this goes smoothly as smoothly as possible in a timely manner. And in order to hit your deadline, we want to make sure that we handle everything for you.
Hmm, gotcha. Beautiful. And then let's talk about reverse wholesaling a little bit. Going out and getting a buyer and saying, "Hey, let's build this relationship, let's establish rapport, and then what's your buy box?" You get their buy box, and then you're going out to other people and you're saying, "Hey, listen, I have a buyer that I work with. They're looking for a 3-2 with a pool that has short-term rental potential." What does that look like for you? How do you establish those relationships, and then how do you reverse engineer that for the deals that you're looking for?
Dude, that one's really tough, man. Like it definitely works, but it's like It's not something that I'll focus on.
Gotcha.
Yeah, because in the end of the day, like you're talking about building rapport with somebody that you don't have any value, you're not adding any value to. And it's like sometimes like when you're like, for example, when I'm working with a client, right? Immediate result is the most important thing to build trust. It's like if you find out 20, 30 people's buy box and you don't have any deals, it's like, well, okay, just give me a deal. And if you, I have so many people that reached out to me that I don't remember who they are
Mm.
because they were like, oh, you want this? Can I find a deal for you? Yeah, no one has ever found me a deal. Only one person, but I like most of the guys, and these are like I found the deal myself on the same platforms these people are on. I'm
Mm.
just like, yeah, like I don't know, man. I just feel like that's just like way harder than it needs to be. And it's like it just takes a lot of time, a lot of conversation because in the end of the day, you want to protect your time in this game as much as possible. So the main two things that you want to do is just in wholesaling is just marketing and sales. And I'm pretty sure this is the field that you want to like scale in, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is really like don't overcomplicate it. You should focus on one strategy. If you're doing DTA, you should focus only on DTA. If you're doing DTS, you should only focus on DTS. Like you don't want to constantly have to switch that hat back on and off. And then to simplify everything is literally like what is wholesaling? It's a game of marketing and sales. I know guys that are making $10 million. What's it called? They're bringing in like $1 million to $2 million a month in rev to their business, and these guys just spend a lot of money on marketing. They're doing PPC, they're doing Facebook, they're doing PPL, they're doing billboards, they're doing radio, like they're doing everything. So it's like it's a game of marketing, and whoever can spend the most money wins.